Welcome to Cosmic Imprint, a podcast bringing you weekly goodness as the home of lightworkers, new paradigm leaders, sensitive souls, magical beings, spiritual seekers and both spiritual CEOs alike, who are ready to live life in alignment with your own soul's truth and who are here to buck the trends, color outside the lines, thriving in this lifetime's incarnation. Join me each week for conversations about all things human design, weaving my own soul magic where I'll share my intuitive gifts, love of all things metaphysical, manifestation, mindset, fifth dimension, spirit guides, light beings, and beyond. Let's explore your cosmic imprint together. So, you might have heard about personal branding or creating a brand from 1,000 different internet marketing gurus who might have been focused entirely on talking about things like your color scheme, your poses for your photos, how to create a viral reel on Instagram, whatever the hot topic of the time is in the online space. But for me, I like to look at things with my 6'2" mental projector perspective to empower you to think of your brand or personal branding as the way that you can make sure to support yourself to show up as your true self, as a soulpreneur, as someone who is in the online space, sharing their gifts, sharing their magic, whether that's building a business right now, whether that's transitioning from maybe working for someone else to creating your own business, whether you've already been running your business for a long time, right? This is something that obviously goes across the board from, healers, light workers, anyone who is in that space of being a spiritual entrepreneur or a spiritual business owner, coaches, my incredible soul community that you are part of is made up of so many just magical souls doing magical things, whether that is interweaving modalities like human design, whether that is sharing tarot, astrology, being a channel, being a guide, being a healer, an energy worker, it really is something that I believe so strongly that personal branding in this space of being someone who is getting clarity on your own cosmic imprint, right? That your personal branding supports you to show up as your true self. And really it's something that I guess I always like to talk to my clients about is trends, viral quality, social media, even the platforms that we use for social media, right? They come and go. All of that comes and goes. It's transitory. It's only here for a short period of time. And as we've seen, even over the past 6 months, say with a platform like Instagram, they've shifted the goalpost for the types of content that is favored, right? And it's moving more and more towards video. And they've just recently, within the past few weeks, come out and explicitly shared that to say that it is still a place for sharing photos, for sharing stories, but I guess the greater favor is going to be given to individuals or accounts on Instagram that are creating video content. And that's not to say that we all have to go out and start only creating video content. It's just, I always like to look at these things and kind of look at it from that big picture, which, okay, hashtag mental projector life, right? Everything is like from looking at the top of a tree down at the world below, right? It's that very zoomed out, I'm up in space looking at things perspective. So it's not the end of the world if video isn't your jam. It's just really why I wanted to create, share this episode, for example, because something that I'm a real stand for is creating from your truth and your soul's essence. You can be so fucking epically successful just making sure that you are coming from your truth, your soul's essence, your personal brand, right? And not trying to constantly mold yourself into something that isn't aligned for you. And I am like, as I am recording this, I've got like both hands in the air being like, I have been there and I've done that. And I have like got the matching t-shirt, cap, backpack, like the whole damn collection of trying to mold myself into something that wasn't aligned for me, because I listened to someone on the internet, right? So this is coming from a well-trodden 6'2" profile path of doing it the way that wasn't aligned. So I'm the first to say to my clients, let's work smarter, not harder, when it comes to creating soul-aligned marketing or your personal brand or your, curating your branding, which might mean utilizing those tools and those platforms of choice in the social media realm in a strategic way. Say, for example, using Reels on Instagram, because at the moment, when I'm recording this right now, they are highly favored. However, it will change in the future. So let's say create something that is using it in a strategic way, because you can create something that is going to have a far-reaching, impact, or, potentially be the intention of who you are serving is going to align with your personal brand, but do it from an energetic space of creating that or sharing that piece of content, doing so in total alignment with your own personal brand and your soul's magic, right? Like not trying to hack, not trying to like do something just to get a viral, uptake, because at the end of the day, what is that all for, right? Anything that I guess this could just be my own shit, right? But anything when people are starting to talk about viral quality of content, there is an element there that I always look at and go, but what's the intention behind going viral, right? Because we all know that as soulpreneurs, we're here to show up and shine and serve our soul-aligned community, right? We are not here to try and speak to all 7 billion plus people on this planet. And so I always come at things from that essence of going, who are you trying to reach? Who are you trying to serve, and why? If you are trying to go viral online within your brand, within your social media, to get your personal brand out there, for example, what's the intention behind that, and why are we trying to do that? At the end of the day, you can have a wildly fucking successful business with only, a couple of hundred followers on social media. It is all about who you're serving, the soul community you are nourishing and nurturing. You might not even have social media and you can be a billionaire, right? Like, let's just peel it all back and go, let's work smarter, not harder, and let's come at things from your truth and your soul essence. So what is a personal brand, right? Well, at the end of the day, there are a bajillion, and yes, that's a real number, different definitions of this if you were to jump on Google, but your brand is you. That's my take on it. There might be a whole other raft of different definitions of a personal brand, but my perspective on this is that your brand is you. It is not some carefully curated, photoshopped, edited version of you. It is you, and it's your soul's truth. And understanding this about the way you show up and shine in your soul's work, in your purpose, in your business, at the end of the day, it's your vibe, and you're here to share that with integrity, with your truth at the front, and your essence, not some watered down or photoshopped version that you think you should be sharing, right? Because anytime there is a should, and I'm doing little air quotation marks around the word should here, anytime there's a should, it shouldn't be happening, right? Like should is a word that needs to go. And if it's ever in a sentence or something that you feel about your business, then that's a big like fucking red flashing light on the dashboard to tell you that something is misaligned here. Now, of course, within our personal brands, each of our unique, beautiful personal brands, there are different energetic alignments that are each of our own individual truths, right? Like, this is the essence of human design, isn't it? That while we can have similarities, we all have this intricately unique activation within us that is our soul's truth and our individual gifts that are expressed in a way that is that beautiful kind of cosmic, collection of things that have been activated, gifts that have been activated within you. So there are different energetic alignments for each of us individually, right? And what works for one person as a soulpreneur certainly can feel all sorts of icky for another person. What might energize and allow someone to thrive and feel fucking lit up every single day might actually be someone else's idea of like living a permanent nightmare, right? And this is why I'm so passionate about this work and why I love, supporting the soulpreneurs that I work with around this, because it is so powerful to understand that your unique activations are what create and allow you to shine and create your personal brand, and that it's okay to essentially feel inspired by or take what works, take what resonates from the way someone else might show up and what they might share, but understand that their formula, no one person's formula is going to work for another person, right? And this is kind of, I guess, the whole underlying, I don't want to say flaw, but I'm going to use the word flaw behind, I guess, the internet marketing space, is that there are so many people out there trying to say, this is the way I succeeded, so therefore follow my 10-step process and you will succeed this way too, right? Anything that is that kind of blanket, one-size-fits-all approach ain't going to work for everyone. So this is where the work I do, I like to be able to say, hey, take inspiration from those things and by all means sign up to those programs and work with those incredible, inspiring people and, take their course or do their mastermind or, but always have in mind that you have your own uniqueness within you, within your brand and your personal brand that allows you to feel confident in knowing that there will be elements that maybe don't quite align for you, and that's okay, right? So today I'm focusing on one element of your personal brand, which is about getting clarity on whether you are designed to be the focus of your brand, or as I like to describe it or call it, centering yourself within your brand, whether that is whether you're designed to be someone who centers yourself within your brand. And this is commonly soulpreneurs who are, say, the face of their brand, for example. Their Instagram feed is all photos of them. They're the person who's dancing in the reel. They're front and center of the camera on their Instagram stories every day, so to speak. So this is like being the person in front of the camera, the big universal cosmic camera lens. Through to the other end of this energetic spectrum of personal brands, where you might be someone who is designed to focus your soul's work or to center your work within your brand. And at this end of the energetic spectrum, that might look like having a social media feed that is entirely comprised of infographics or Canva tiles, quotes, shareable wisdom, artwork, a carousel of, maybe a breakdown of the astrology of this new moon coming up, for example. And, it's having the work in the front and center of that personal brand, and you as the soulpreneur in this case being like the director who's sitting behind the camera, so to speak. So it's like you're still there, you're still the driving force, you are the energy, you are the brand, but at that other end of the spectrum, you might be more the director sitting in the chair behind the camera. And the thing that I enjoy so much about sharing this knowledge and empowering others with this knowledge is because it's a scale, right? It is an energetic scale, and we all fall somewhere along that scale. And it's really just the biggest key is getting clarity on how your own soulpreneur brand, sits within that energetic scale. So there is no one is better than another. It's just that we all fall somewhere on that spectrum, and it's understanding that is kind of like the biggest key. So our personal brand is one way that we can get clarity on our own individual unique magic and way of showing up within that brand that is the most effortless and natural and aligned, like the golden zone, right? The golden lane that we're all here to uniquely have. And it empowers each of us to live our own design in the way we show up day to day, because sometimes the hardest thing I know from my clients and the beautiful community that I'm surrounded by, that sometimes the hardest thing is actually showing up, because we feel that pressure, or again, the shoulds around how we're supposed to do it. We slip into that comparison space if we're looking at other people around us, or, our colleagues or our contemporaries within, maybe the coaching space or the human design space even, because I've had to put my blinkers on at times and not look at other human design guides and mentors and, people who are doing this work, whether it's in astrology or, gene keys or human design, because their formula, their personal brand, their way of doing things is so fucking aligned for them, but is energetically at a really different end of the scale from my energetic highest expression. And I have to put my blinkers on and not compare myself to the way they show up, because if I tried to emulate what they were doing within my personal brand, it would be all sorts of fucking wrong, right? It would not align. It would be completely, misconnected, and there would be that essence of what I'm here to show up and share feels flattened, and it gets to that space where you start avoiding showing up because you don't have the clarity, you don't have the confidence in your own brand, your own personal brand, and you're too busy coming at it from that space of trying to follow someone else's formula. And I'm doing formula also in air quotation marks, where we end up, trying to use that social media guru's kind of 5-step process for how to, show up online and make 6 figures in your business kind of thing. All these keywords that we get kind of swept up in, and then realize oh shit, why can't I do it the way they're showing me to? Why is it so easy for them? Why is it that I feel like I want to hide and not open my Instagram app and, all of these things? So what we're going to do while we're sitting here and you're listening is you're going to pull up your chart if you haven't got it in front of you already. And the aspects we're going to look at are 3 places in your human design that are going to give you that clarity on where you sit on that spectrum of the personal brand, like we talked about, whether you're at the end of the scale that is kind of being front and center in front of the camera, or are you at the other end of the energetic spectrum where you're more the director sitting in the chair behind the camera. So the first place we're going to look is your unique energy, and this is your sacral chakra. So do you have it defined? Are you a generator? Are you a manifesting generator? Or do you have it undefined or open, as in white in your chart, being a projector, manifestor, or reflector? Then the second place you're going to look to is your self-identity, your identity center, which is your G center, being the big diamond shape that's directly above the sacral chakra. And if this is defined for you, usually this will be shown as yellow if it's defined. If it's white, if it's undefined or open, you're looking to see this in your chart. And then lastly, we're going to look at just one of the 4 arrows that are at the top of your chart, sitting either side of the head on the chart layout. And the arrow you're going to be looking at in particular for this is on the left-hand side, and it's the bottom left arrow. And you're going to take a look at this to note whether it faces to the left or whether it faces to the right. So it's just 3 things we're looking at within the chart. And obviously there are so many layers to how I would usually look at and kind of tell the story of someone's human design, their gene keys, their astrology when it comes to their personal brand when I'm doing a reading for someone. But these are the 3 kind of starting points for you to look at and to take away from listening to this episode today to get clarity on your own unique personal brand. So let's go back to looking at the sacral chakra and your unique energy. So if this is defined and you are a generator or a manifesting generator, think of this as this is your energetic expression, that when you are showing up, loving what you do, loving life, loving everything about your, soulpreneur work, when you are following those cosmic breadcrumbs of responding to everything and following the hell yeses, you produce energy, right? Like you literally are generating energy that's overflowing into the world around you. This is your magnetic best. This is your consistent energetic expression to show up every day. If this is undefined or open for you, being that you are a projector, a manifestor, or a reflector, is understanding that this is your unique energy, but that you have the gift of a variable energy source, right? Like you have the gift of flexibility, of nuance, of showing up in a way that is ebbs and flows, right? If you can imagine the tide coming in and out, that those periods of retreat and rest are equally as crucial for you in order to, when everything flows and, or surges forward in the case of, a manifestor, for example, that you can kind of quantum leap. So it might feel like you're not doing something. If you maybe take a couple of days off posting on social media, for example, within your brand. However, when you do post, it's got that real surge and that kind of almost quantum leap ability to go, you know what, when I do put something out into the world, when I do create content, it's got a real weighted essence to it that is so much more powerful than if I just tried to show up every single day posting from a energetic place that is depleted or not in alignment, right? And you guys will see this within my own content, within my own social media, if you follow me online, that I will go through some weeks where I might post once. I go through some weeks where I might post 3 or 4 times. I allow that ebb and flow and work with so many other factors within my energetic expression, because and I've been there and I've done it, and I literally have at times in my business been the person who has posted once a day religiously, or has posted twice a day. Even I think at one point I was doing in my business like this crazy hamster on a hustle wheel, right? Like it was so energetically misaligned, and I was so burnt out and in that space of posting for the sake of posting. So it was without meaning. It didn't have intention. It was just trying to desperately like flail around for some reason, because I was told that that was the way to be successful, right? That you have to do something every day. Now, generators and manifesting generators, for example, I'm not saying that you have to post every single day. What I'm saying is that you are designed to have a consistent energetic expression. So whatever lights you up, whether that's posting once a week, whether that's posting every single day, whether that's, for Manny Gens, right? Whether that's not posting for a couple of days and then posting twice or 3 times in one day out of the blue, right? Like these are the things that you have the consistent energetic expression for. So whatever lights you up, you're going to have the energy to do it. And so you've got that energy as well to be kind of the front and center in your business, more so because you've got that consistent energy if it feels aligned for you. So then now let's talk about the G center, right? Your sense of self-identity. If this is defined for you, colored in your chart, you're someone who has that strong sense of self-identity, that security around kind of who you are. Like you know what you're about, you know the direction you're heading in. You've got that sort of secure sense of self. It doesn't mean you don't have conditioning, right? It doesn't mean you don't have that sense of, I need to shrink myself to fit in, or I shouldn't be this person, or I, perhaps need to hide this part of me because I don't feel safe to share it with the world. Like, you can still have conditioning even with a defined G center. The thing is to know about yourself is that you internally have always got clarity on it. You might not express it out into the world around you. Let's say, for example, you're someone who fucking loves tarot and the occult and everything witchy and, star seeds and aliens and, the whole fucking esoteric, like kit and caboodle. However, you've always had that strong sense of identity within you, and you know that about yourself. And, it might be that within your home, you are more than comfortable with embodying that sense of identity. And yet the minute you leave your front door, you kind of leave it all behind because of that conditioning around, it's not safe to share this side of me. It's not safe to embody this version of, this true sense of myself. So I create a different kind of version of that that's watered down and kind of tapered down when I go out into the world or when I share on social media, for example. So that's what I mean here, that, you can have a defined G center and have that strong sense of identity within you and still not show it to the world. So that's sometimes a little bit of conditioning work to work through as a soulpreneur, to embody that strong sense of identity, but you do have it within you. Now, if this is undefined or open, if it's white in your chart, it's understanding that your sense of self-identity, your sense of direction, that security of, who you are, your sense of style, your hair, the way you speak even, is fluid, it's flexible, it's variable, and it's going to be heavily impacted by those who surround you, right? If you are someone with an undefined or open G center, the environment being, the people you surround yourself with, the physical environment you surround yourself with, even the social media environment you surround yourself with, you're going to always be kind of absorbing those characteristics. So you might have found at different points in your life, you've been the chameleon, you've tried to fit in, you've tried to blend in, or you've unknowingly blended in. I guess the classic here is the, I don't know if you've ever seen those memes of like Brad Pitt over the last, 30 years and all his different partners and relationships that he's kind of transformed into looking like his partner in each of his relationships. Like, this is kind of classic undefined G center, right? Like, we transform and we take on board and we absorb and we amplify the characteristics and the qualities of what surrounds us. So it might be that, if you are surrounded by a real kind of corporate environment, that you might have kind of absorbed all of those characteristics in terms of your sense of style and your personality and the way you express yourself. However, the minute you go on holiday, say, out to, like, let's just say, for example, you go to the beach for a week holiday, and then you've absorbed all of that characteristic and that quality, and then it's all of a sudden you're like the ultimate beach babe with like the long blowing hair and the big caftans, and it's really interesting because I have an undefined G center, so I kind of am speaking from personal experience here that that's been my life, this kind of series of chameleon like processes of that sense of identity is fluid and flexible and variable. So it's understanding this about yourself is really powerful within your personal brand, because it kind of gives you that permission to go, actually, you know what? I can stop judging myself for all of these aspects within my personal brand, and having that clarity on yourself is really powerful. So how this translates into a personal brand, within the way you put yourself out there, is understanding that if it's defined for you, if your G center is defined for you, that being in front of the camera, so to speak, centering yourself in front of as the center of your work, is a lot easier to do so because you've got that strong sense of identity and security within, your soul's truth. Doesn't mean when yours is undefined that you can't do that. It just means that you kind of have that clarity on yourself to know that because it's fluid and flexible and variable in the sense of your sense of identity, that it can mean that giving yourself that flexibility to go, actually, you know what, I don't always want to be in front of the camera. It doesn't feel aligned for me, is really powerful. That's a really powerful gift you can give yourself, the fluidity and the flexibility. And then lastly, the environment, right? That bottom left-hand arrow. If it faces to the left, what you can understand about yourself is that you are someone who energetically thrives being observed by others. And what that means is that you can be someone, say, in a situation, with other people or within your social media space that can show the sort of the work in progress, that can show the behind the scenes, that can take people along with you to go, hey, if you want to observe me while I'm working, while I'm doing a photo shoot, while I'm going to get my groceries, while I'm going for a walk, those things all energetically line up for you. It's energetically you can thrive while being watched. And you might find that in the sense of it's okay for you to kind of do the more behind the scenes type stuff of going, hey, come and peer over my shoulder while I do this thing, while I do a tutorial, while I share a screen grab of what I'm working on, all of those things. Then if this arrow faces to the right in your chart, you energetically are designed to be the observer. And what that means is that you don't energetically thrive when someone's watching over your shoulder. So this is allowing yourself that kind of permission to go, you know what? Having someone watch my work in progress feels kind of icky and like, oh, and I always feel like I do something wrong when somebody's watching me, but when I'm able to do it on my own, it's all perfect and it goes without a hitch, right? You might have been the kid at school who was perfectly doing everything perfectly until the teacher came along and started watching what you were doing, and then it all went to shit, right? So with this arrow, understanding whether it's the left-facing expression, the right-facing expression for you, allows you to kind of know as well within your personal brand, are you typically going to be someone who is more comfortable sharing the, hey, come and watch me, or hey, I'm watching the world around me and I'm picking up a whole lot of feedback and nuance and, perspective and information that I can then transform into something that I can share. So it's kind of, I guess the biggest thing to know here is that there is no right or wrong, right? As I say, this is an energetic spectrum, and there is certainly nothing that prohibits you from being at the center of your personal brand, in front of the camera, fucking up in lights if you feel called to do so. Because as I say, if that's the case, fucking go for it and own it and do it. And I love you for it. And it's knowing that there are other aspects within your design, your human design, that are going to kind of, I guess, support that side of your personal brand. However, it just gives you some clarity on where to start, and you can always experiment with it to find your own unique zone of flow and ease in your golden lane from knowing these aspects of your design, so that you can kind of take that soul sigh of relief when you've been feeling that pressure or like you're constantly being hit with all this noise that you have to be in front of the camera, or you have to be showing your face, or that you have to be doing it this way, that you should be showing up in this one particular way. When actually, for a huge fucking proportion of soulpreneurs, there is so much nuance to this. And that's why, I really wanted to share this with you so that you can kind of get a feel for where you sit on that spectrum. And it might be as well that with conditioning, taking into account the conditioning, it might mean that you can go, okay, I know I sit maybe, with all these gifts I have within my design, I can see where I potentially could be on this energetic spectrum, but for right now, I know I've got a bit of shadow work and, those conditionings around my, sense of confidence within my identity that I'm working through. So I'm working towards kind of moving up the scale to where I know my highest potential and my highest vibration, kind of expression of my personal brand is going to be in the future. So how do you work out where you are on the scale? Well, essentially, taking those three things, your sacral chakra, whether that's defined or undefined, your G center, whether that's defined or undefined, and then your arrow, whether that's, the bottom left-hand arrow, whether that is facing to the left or to the right, and think of those as like, if it was a pie chart you were looking at, that, the whole thing is the full circle and it's split into thirds. So your sacral chakra is 1/3 of the kind of piece of your personal brand. Your G center is the second third, and then that arrow is the third, 3 out of 3 to make up that full pie chart. So to look at the not top end, like one end of the scale, right? Because there is no top and bottom here. It's just like a flat, linear, horizontal plane. So at one end of the scale, you would have, say, all three characteristics that would make up that end of the spectrum would be that your sacral chakra is defined. So you're a generator or a manifesting generator. Your G center is also defined. And then your environment arrow, that bottom left-hand arrow, faces to the left. You're designed to be observed by the world around you. You energetically thrive when people are kind of watching you. At that end of the scale, that is 100% the person who is in front of the camera every single day, or has the potential, right, to be showing up in front of the camera, to be front and center, to be the face of the brand, to be centered in front of the camera every single day at that end of the energetic spectrum. Through to the other end of the energetic spectrum, where you can see, say, for example, out of that pie chart of the three pieces of that pie chart, that your sacral is undefined or open. So you're either a projector, a manifestor, or a reflector. Your G center is also undefined or open. And then that arrow, that bottom left-hand arrow, faces to the right. You are energetically someone who doesn't thrive being watched by others. You're designed to be the observer. So down at that side of the energetic spectrum, again, it's not an up or down. It's not a better or worse. It's just a sliding scale. If you, say, had all of those three components to your pie chart, your personal brand might be the director behind the camera, right? It doesn't mean you can't be in front of the camera if you feel called to do so, because as I say, there are lots of other components that come into this, but overarchingly, you might be someone whose personal brand centers your work, it centers your clients, it centers the content that you produce, and you might only pop in every now and then, to show your face, just to kind of remind people who you are. There are plenty of accounts, like say on Instagram, for example, that I follow that are human design or astrology focused or energetics or, spirituality focused, where I wouldn't have a clue who the person was behind that brand, right? I never see their face, but their work is so powerful, and the wisdom that they share and the content that they share, the shareable, as I say, like astrology breakdowns that they provide are incredible. And so it's understanding that you can be extremely fucking successful and be that director that's sitting behind the camera, directing everything that's in front of the camera. And it might be that you share client testimonials. It might be that you share interviews with someone else where they are the kind of primary focus of the interview, that you're, as I say, creating content that is designed to be shared online, whether it's, Canva graphics that are in a carousel, or even a reel that is information based or artistic based. It doesn't have an actual person in it, for example. So, and then there are like 7 billion nuances within that, right? So looking at it like it's a pie chart, you might have one of those three things might be, you're a generator, for example. So your sacral is defined. However, your G center is undefined and your environment arrow faces to the right. So it's understanding that you've got one of those three things, kind of, I guess, activated, and the others lean towards the energetic expression of being behind the camera. So you can go, okay, one of three is like my kind of, I'm here to be in front of the camera. And so I can weave that into my content and go, hey, about 1/3 of the time, it's me, it's my face, I'm on stories, but 2/3 of the time I'm centering my work, for example. Or you might have a higher proportion of the other way around. You might have 2 of the 3 are about being in front of the camera, and 1/3 of that is more like centering your work. So you do that kind of balance, for example. So I'll talk about myself as an example of this, so you can see how this works in a real life practical example. So for me, my personal brand is a mixture of centering my work or my wisdom that I'm here to share as the director behind the camera. That comes from about 2/3, of that pie chart. So I have an undefined sacral and I have an undefined G center. But I have a environment arrow, that bottom left-hand arrow that faces to the left. So I'm like a 2/3 to 1/3 split energetically. So I sprinkle through it references back to myself in my personal brand that include images of myself being in front of the camera that allow others to observe my process, right? Me living in my design, which comes from that left-facing arrow. So I kind of take the approach of a 2/3 to 1/3 kind of split in my personal brand in terms of, and that can end up, at different times energetically, that can be like a 60 to 40% split in my content. So where about 40% of my content kind of refers to me, puts me in front of the camera. So whether that's stories, Insta stories where I'm in front of the camera, photos of myself, speaking to camera. But for me and my sole purpose, I'm not designed to be centering myself in my personal brand more than about that 1/3 of the time. But I am showing up in a way that aligns for me and aligns successfully for me when I bring in the ways that I can be observed by others in that kind of, that manner that is consistent with my energetic expression. And then the other 2/3 of the time, or that 60% of the time, is I'm sharing resources. I'm sharing, new moon guides, full moon guides. I'm sharing, kind of reels that are written in a way that is text on the screen, for example, with a background image or a background video. I use a lot of nature I'll bring in, or, cosmic sort of elements to my graphics and my branding. And I, carefully curate that in a way to go, hey, I can still share everything I'm here to share, my sole purpose, my wisdom, my guidance, my mentorship, my, genius, but I can do it in a way that energetically aligns for me. Because while I could abso-fucking-lutely be in front of the camera every day, and trust me, like I mentioned earlier, I have gone through long periods in my business when I did so because I thought that's what I should do. And for anyone who follows me, say on Instagram, you can scroll back in my feed to a time when every single photo was of me. I was, probably at that point in time posting at least once a day, if not twice a day at certain points in time. And it was fucking exhausting for me. And I can see now how much more impact I have and how much further my energy goes efficiently, right? When I allow myself to use this 2/3 to 1/3 ratio of my personal brand, right? When I allow my truth and my soul's essence and my energetic expression to be in the way that aligns for me, rather than trying to force myself to do things in a way that I thought I should do. And as I say, this is just one part of your personal brand. There are so many other aspects that come into it in understanding your unique brand and your unique cosmic imprint. And this is like, one of my favorite things to share when I work with my clients on understanding their chart, weaving that bigger picture story together through, Soulpreneur Blueprint, human design readings and things where we start to understand how the other components come in. But this is such a big piece at the heart of it, for beautiful soulpreneurs to get clarity on, where they can take that big kind of soul sigh of relief and go, oh, okay, I now can have that confidence in knowing where I sit on that energetic spectrum, so that I no longer feel like I'm trying to force myself to operate in a way and show up in my brand and, build my personal brand in a way that feels so misaligned. So you can start to understand, as I say, when we go deeper, when I work with clients deeper on this, we bring in the other aspects such as your profile and how that plays such a big part in your unique social media or your marketing structures, heart chakra desires and motivation and drive, and whether it's defined, whether it's undefined, what gates are activated, and even into, your throat chakra, understanding, if that's activated, if it's defined, if it's undefined, the gates that are activated, all of this stuff. And I love as well highlighting, when I touched on before about things like the shadow side of ourselves, the splenic fears that we've come with, those shadows that we've come here to navigate and live with all the time, right? Because our splenic center, the activations there, the gates that are activated, whether it's defined, whether it's undefined, whether it's open, that all comes into play as a soulpreneur, because it allows us to get clarity on, the things that are activated within us that are going to be there all the time. And we learn to transform them and transmute them and use them in their highest expression, rather than feeling like, oh, well, I'm not showing up to my greatest potential and I'm a failure and all these negative things that can come through, when actually we can understand that if you've got certain gates activated in your spleen, for example, that's going to have a huge, influence on your personal brand and how you show up, but it also becomes a huge part of your personal brand, right? That, say for example, for me, my activation from my splenic center is all about a fear of running out of time, right? And I know that within my brand that I always have to sit with that question to myself when I feel that, nudge of a fear-based expression around, oh, well, you haven't posted anything in a few days. I always have to come back to that question of, is this fear motivation coming through of I'm running out of time to be successful? Am I posting from a place of, or am I creating content within my business? Am I showing up within my, as my personal brand, my brand, motivated by providing value, doing something that is energetically aligned, sharing wisdom that is within my truth and full of integrity? Or am I sharing something for the sake of sharing it because I've got this fear of running out of time, that if I don't post this week, then I will have blown my chance to be successful, and all of these other things that weave in, right? So it goes so deep, and I love nerding out on it. And you guys know I could talk forever about this, but hey, we all want to respect each other's time as soulpreneurs, right? So I just wanted to share that with you. I wanted to give you that piece of clarity within your own design today, that you can look at your own chart and you can start to get clarity on how this plays out for you as a soulpreneur, how you can begin to understand your own personal brand, not from a place of you didn't have understanding on it before, but it's like, I always like to, the image that comes to mind is, something that just needs polished off to remove the dust, right? Like the dust and the debris that we collect, that's our conditioning over our lifetime, something like listening to this episode today is just polishing off and allowing what is already within you to shine. And it's probably something that you already know about yourself. And this is just the big kind of permission slip to actually show up and embody that and be that brightest version of yourself without having the shoulds and the judgment and the self, doubts coming in, because you have incredible gifts within you. And as I say, no matter where you sit on that energetic spectrum as a personal brand, as a soulpreneur, as a, business owner, you can be so fucking incredibly abundant and prosperous and successful. And so much of the time it's just getting out of our own way, right? So as always, I am sending you enormously big virtual hugs through the microphone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening in. And I hope you got something incredible out of this episode, you sparkly, vibrant soul. And of course, if you've listened in, if you've loved this episode, if you've had an aha moment, DM me, tag me on Instagram, screenshot and share this episode that you've been listening into. I love to see it. I love to interact with all of it. I love to hear where you're listening in from. And I know there are so many of you beautiful listeners that are spread all around this beautiful little blue dot in the universe. So as always, I will catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much, my loves. Shine on.